Hello and welcome to today's webinar, IT Predictions for 2021, How They Relate to an Effective Hybrid Multi-Cloud Strategy. Today's event is brought to you in partnership with Nutanix and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great event lined up for you. I'll be introducing you to our two expert speakers here in just a moment. But I can already tell you they've got an awesome presentation and we'll be doing a live demo. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, before we jump into it, just a few things that you should know about the event today. We encourage your questions. We want this to be an educational event. So you can use the questions box there in your audience console. Get your questions in early. We want this to be educational. We want to help you to solve your technology challenges in 2021. 2020 was a challenging year, to say the least, and 2021 looks to be ever so challenging in the world of enterprise IT. So thankfully, there's some really innovative solutions released from Nutanix. Nutanix has been helping companies of all sizes solve their technology challenges for many years now. So this is a great opportunity. And with that, I'm excited now to introduce you to today's two expert presenters. Let me go ahead and bring them on now. They are Mr. Alan Waters, Senior Solutions Marketing Manager at Nutanix, and Mr. Sahil Bansal, Product Marketing Manager also at Nutanix. Sahil and Alan, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Great, thanks, David. And welcome everyone to the presentation. My name is Alan Waters, as David just mentioned. I'm a Solutions Marketing Manager here at Nutanix, and I'm coming to you live from the wonderful state of New Hampshire, where I think it's minus 10 degrees out today, so it's a little bit chilly. So hopefully we can warm things up a little bit, talking about cloud and private cloud and HCI and public cloud. So how things are going to flow a little bit, I'm going to cover a few early slides and talk about HCI, private cloud, and public cloud. And then I'm going to hand it over to Sahil to cover a little bit more of the details and really dig in a little bit more and even show you a live demonstration of the hybrid cloud solution and some other bits there. So we're both going to be keeping an eye on the question and answer. So if you do have questions along the way, put them in there and we'll try and get to them as we can. So let's get going and dig in. So enterprises are trying to transform or are transforming, and I'm sure you've seen this message before. You know, it's a huge cloud trend for 2021 and has been for quite some time. I think a lot of you out there know this firsthand, maybe going through it for yourself. But I'm going to be going through some findings that you see here from ESG and Bob Liberte, I think his name is, that did this research throughout the presentation. But here you can see ESG shows 55% of organizations are really trying to become more efficient. 49% are trying to deliver differentiated customer experience, trying to stay more competitive. And I think these two stats can really directly relate to what we're all been really going through for the past year and the pandemic and COVID-19. So it's not really just about efficiency and IT teams really trying to find themselves with the added stress, to increase agility, trying to provision new workloads, for example, workloads on demand, trying to scale quickly. I mean, plenty of examples where back in March or April, IT teams went home on Friday night and they learned that, hey, they had to have 500 people work from home on Monday. I mean, that's a real story, right? And really having a platform and an IT strategy to support this is real. So data center modernization, additional findings from ESG show that automation is going to be huge. It's going to increase this year. 25% of companies that ESG surveyed are trying to increase automation, and I don't think that's a surprise either. 24% are actually moving to HCI, moving away from their legacy three-tier architectures, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But examples of automation, they can vary. quite a bit. It can even involve moving to just HCI because there's a lot of automation from HCI itself. Lifecycle management, easy upgrades, and things like that. But what about when you think about creating a self-service marketplace, making things easy? Customers can come in and help themselves to virtual machines or get their own database, things like that, automation like that. Creating workflows for deploying and managing applications even. So there's a lot of ways to get there, improve on the automation side. There's a lot of different ways to attack it, but really help teams get things done faster. Stop putting out all the fires and get back to really working on the initiatives to help the business move forward and really stay competitive in the market. So the simplicity side with HCI. So if you take a closer look at this, and that last statistic that ESG mentioned, where 24% of organizations are moving to HCI, which of course is great news for Nutanix, right? Why is that? It's all the simplicity that HCI can deliver. HCI has been out for a long time, 10 plus years at this point, and has proven. And when you look at this diagram on the visual here, when you compare it to kind of that three-tier legacy architecture that you see on the left-hand side there, the right-hand side, oh, I think it's a build, sorry. The right-hand side is just a lot more simple. Everything's combined. You know, get away from all those individual storage array silos, all those server silos, all the different tools to manage each piece of those. You know, now you move over on the right-hand side to HCI. Let me see if it's a build one more time. Oh, nope. I'm messing it up here. And now it's just a standard x86. This is the better visual. Now it's a standard x86 server, moving more to a software-defined, and a lot of those pieces, all the storage pieces, all the server pieces, all the fiber channel switches, all of those pieces disappear, and things get a lot easier. So there's other items to consider when you're looking for a platform to support a new IT strategy like this in 2021. And there's a lot of other pieces that kind of surround that infrastructure to support your data center. So when you look at all these different pieces and you really try and compare it to some of the big vendors out there, you know, a lot of them will send a different sales rep in for each one of these different pieces, right? There's a rep for storage, there's a rep for operations and automation, there's a rep for business continuity, and there's a lot of silos that are created. It doesn't help. So you really need to find a platform that easily combines all these different capabilities and really build out. And when I look at this layered cake, I like to think of it as kind of above and beyond HCI. It's creating a private cloud. It's when you go to a public cloud such as AWS, it's getting all those same capabilities, but creating it on-prem in a private cloud. Create the same thing, that self-service marketplace, all the automation, all the business continuity, and do it on-prem. So there are a lot of components to consider when you're looking at this. The great thing about Nutanix and the Nutanix point of view is that all these different capabilities can be added quickly, and they're seamless, and they act as one within this HCI cloud platform. And actually, Sahil, when I hand it over to Sahil in a couple minutes, he's going to bring you into kind of that hybrid cloud platform and show you that a little bit deeper. But really, what Nutanix brings to the table from the HCI side of it is you can create a single platform. You'll have a single platform. You'll have one cloud, and we'll talk about how that private cloud HCI platform connects to the public cloud to run any application. So new applications. ESG also talks about the need that organizations have to deploy applications faster. I don't think this is anything new either. 86% of organizations are under pressure to get those out and to do just that. And they're trying to keep up with the demands of their business, right? That's what it's all about. Keep up with the customers. If an organization down the road comes up with a new application and you need to match that, you need to get an application created and out the door faster to keep up with them. So it's important. and it's a big piece of 2021, and having that ability with your cloud platform. So carrying that on, and talk about the public cloud adoption that I mentioned just a second ago. We haven't spoken a lot about public cloud yet, but we're going to start to get into it. Um, we talked about making the move to HCI and really building out the different components of HCI for that private cloud. But as you all know, there's great reasons for public cloud. And that's why the market's growing so fast. That's why a lot of organizations, I mean, when you talk to them, and maybe you have this, they have a cloud first strategy, right? But why is that? The public cloud has really proven itself in being able to take a lot of the pains of infrastructure management away and enables IT organizations really to deliver to their business in a timely manner. Maybe it's those applications we just spoke about, getting those out the door faster. And you can see from the ESG numbers here that 94% are using public cloud, 67% will leverage that type of infrastructure to host applications, and 45% of organizations are going to run applications on there. So there's a lot of great reasons for public cloud, and that's no news to you. I mean, you're in the you've been there. You're probably doing that. There are great reasons for on-prem too, which we talked about, and of course, hopefully, it's based on HCI, of course, and that's why a majority of IT professionals believe that hybrid cloud is actually the best IT platform to move to. Why? Because it's the best of both worlds, right? It offers all the benefits of private cloud combined with all the benefits of public cloud. But the key is picking the right private cloud and HCI platform that gives you all the abilities to get up and touch the public cloud so you can combine the two. So cost governance. So another thing to consider when you're building out your hybrid cloud, your private cloud, is being able to keep a tab on the costs that are associated with it. How much is a virtual machine or a test application costing you when it's sitting up on a public cloud? Do you know? Examples on the screen is a good one. They can grow like crazy. When you see, an application or a virtual machine that was costing 20,000 suddenly grows to 200,000. You need to be able to see those costs, and you need to make sure that those costs are meeting budgets. Um, what about chargebacks and showbacks to different departments? Can you do it? Can you do it easily? Is it all integrated within that platform that you're using? A really big piece here is starting to see the costs and relate it directly back, and really start being cloud smart with those specific applications. Because when you see something go from 20K to 200K, then you really need to have a platform to easily be able to move virtual machines between public cloud and on-prem or private cloud and be able to move them back and forth. You got to be smart about the applications and be cloud smart and really have a cloud platform and a hybrid cloud platform that can support both. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sahil, where he can show you and dig in a little bit more, show you a little bit more on costs, and then later he's going to show you a demo on the Nutanix hybrid cloud platform. Sahil?
Thanks, Alan, and thanks for sharing all those great pieces of information from ESG, from Gartner, really showing which way the industry trends are going when it comes to HCI adoption and public cloud adoption. And as Alan was mentioning, the key challenge, one of the key challenges when it comes to public cloud is how do you keep your costs under control? So over the next few slides, I'll talk to you about what are the specific actions that we see people taking and what are the corresponding cost savings associated with those actions. So this is based on real data that Nutanix has analyzed for our public cloud users. And one of the key ways to control your cloud costs is by optimizing your infrastructure sizing. Maybe you don't really need a big, bulky compute or database instance for the workloads that your team is running. And if you were to resize it appropriately for the needs of those workloads, what are the cost savings that can be identified? Well, we found in our data that by right sizing VMs, databases, data stores, and load balancers. Those are the top three things. By right sizing those, our customers were able to identify 5% in cloud cost savings, 5% of their total public cloud spend, just by right sizing their VMs, databases, and load balancers. And out of those three, it seems like the VMs and the database right sizing was the most important one, as you see in the chart on the right. So this 5% cloud savings by right sizing your instances, then by switching to reserved instances, that's where we see a lot of savings kick in. AWS has recently introduced the concept of savings plan, which is really very similar to reserved instances. It's just about a different mode of consumption. But at the end objective is, if you know you will have continuous consumption over a long period of time, then instead of paying on an on-demand pricing model, you should consider the reservation-based pricing model, where you commit to a certain amount of spending to the public cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and the others, and consequently you get a reduction in savings. And again, this is based on real data that we analyze of the instances that our customers were running, and they were paying it using the pay-as-you-go model. Instead, if they had switched to a reservation-based model, they would have been able to cut their public cloud spending between 15 to 25% of their overall cloud spend. That's huge. We are already up to 20% in cloud cost savings by these two actions. In addition to that, what we also see, zombie instances, right? Maybe your cloud teams were using some instances, and then they're done and you leave them up and running. My career was born in the cloud. I have been guilty of it. It's just so easy to forget, which storage buckets and which compute instances that you're no longer using, they keep adding up to your bill. What if we could put in automation policies in place that would automatically identify an unused instance and automatically go ahead and delete it based on your defined policy? For example, if you find a storage bucket that's been sitting idle, does not have any data in it, hasn't had any connections for 14 days, just go ahead and remove it, right? Similarly, delete old snapshots that might be older than, I don't know, 30 days or something. If you start to build out these kind of automation policies that clean up unused resources, our customers have found an additional 5% in cloud cost savings. This is 5% of your total cloud spending. Um, Added up all together, this comes to somewhere in the region of 30%, 35% that an average public cloud user can identify in terms of their cloud savings. Put another way, without thinking through these cost savings actions, you're probably overpaying by 30 to 35% on your public cloud spend. And again, most of these savings comes from, right sizing or eliminating database instances and compute instances, and right sizing your network and so on. We've done a pretty extensive analysis on all of these cost saving opportunities, and also the putting in policies in place that will automatically shut off your instances at a predetermined time, right? If it's a dev or test instance that you're not going to use overnight, just put an automation policy in place that shuts it down at, let's say, 6 p.m. every day, brings it back up at 6 a.m. next morning. Sounds trivial, but that's 12 hours. That's 12 hours worth of billing data that you could have saved upon. It's not possible to expect people to do this manually. But if you know that you're not really going to use certain instances over a specified period of time, automating those using scheduling policies can add even more in cost savings. So, as I was saying, we've done a pretty extensive analysis, and this is not hypothetical data. This is not a survey. These are real cost savings that public cloud users have identified by taking these actions that we talked you through, and it's available in the Nutanix Cloud Usage Report. We are currently working on a 2021 version of the Cloud Usage Report, so it is in the works. The 2020 report is available on our website. I'll give you the link in just a second of our website. We will refresh the 2021 report, and if you are listening to this webinar, you will be able to receive that 2021 version of the Cloud Usage Report as well. Now, Alan mentioned, about a hybrid cloud model. So one of the big things with public and private clouds is how do you compare the cost accurately? When you have two such differing concepts as a private cloud based on a data center, and then public cloud, which is basically all you're doing is consuming services. Would it be fair if we just compared the cost of your server licenses and your HCI software with the cost of the equivalent public cloud services? We don't think that's a very accurate comparison, because there's so many other cost factors that go into your data center, that go into running your applications in a private cloud, such as the cost of power and cooling for your data center, the cost of the physical space that the data center takes up, telecom, Ethernet costs, and the cost of your IT staff that goes into managing your data center. Now, if you were to factor in all of those costs and then compare those costs to public cloud, that's a far better, far more accurate cost comparison. And that's one of the things we want to help our customers with, is get an accurate visibility into my workload costs me $100 to run in my data center. If I were to migrate it to public cloud, how much would it cost me? So these are all things that are built into the Nutanix Cloud Cost solution, which is our product called Beam, nutanix.com/Beam. It does deliver today already the cost saving actions that we discussed, automated scheduling policies, reserved instance recommendations, right sizing, cleanup, and so on. And our customers are able to identify 35% or more in their public cloud spend, savings over their public cloud spend. The workload cost analysis across your data center and public clouds, that's a roadmap feature, but it's coming up pretty soon, just in a matter of a few months. And the report that I talked about, the cloud users report, you will be able to download it by going to our website, nutanix.com/beam, as well as you can start your own free trial. Just takes a few minutes to configure your cloud accounts with Beam. And within 24 hours, Beam is going to start to show you cost saving recommendations. So it's really an immediate ROI. Now, talking a little bit more about the industry trends. Well, this is the what are the cloud usage trends in 2021 webinar. So, what about containers? What do we see in terms of, or what does ESG, who did the survey, sees in terms of containerized applications? How are businesses thinking about modernizing their legacy applications? One is, of course, shifting from a VM heavy model to a mix of VM and containers. And what ESG found was that 70% of the customers that they surveyed, they believe that they will be running containerized applications in both public clouds as well as on-prem. There's a bunch of options already in terms of how to manage your, let's say, Kubernetes containers in public cloud, but running those same containerized applications on-prem is still not an easy task, especially at an enterprise scale. So that's one trend that we're definitely seeing in terms of modernizing apps. But then also, you have your legacy applications that are sitting on-prem, and it's not easy to refactor them. It's not easy to retool them. We still want to use some cloud services for those legacy applications, and that's where the benefit of a hybrid and multi-cloud deployment comes in, which almost everyone agrees that that is the ideal model where they want to go to. But if this was this simple, we'd probably not be on this webinar. We'd probably not be doing a demo, and you'd probably not be interested in listening to something if this was so easy to solve. The problem is it isn't easy to solve. In fact, the challenges are myriad in terms of how do you make sure you have good connectivity, network connectivity between your data center and your public clouds, and how do you make sure there is optionality, right? Today we are living in a all remote world. Once we start going back to the offices, we fully expect that businesses, our employers, are going to want to retain that optionality of letting some people come to the office, some people work from home, and maybe some people doing a mix of both. The same optionality, we believe, needs to be made simpler for IT teams, so that your engineering, your development teams can benefit from the environment that most suits their needs, their workload needs, their application development needs. And that's where we believe at Nutanix that having a siloed data center and having a siloed public cloud deployment is not really hybrid, right? Traditionally, you talk about what is hybrid. Well, I have my apps in my data center, and I use some AWS and Azure. Do I have hybrid? Not really. You only really have hybrid, and especially hybrid with multi-cloud, if you're truly able to seamlessly burst across these environments um, in an easy way and in a way that makes sense for your workloads. So what's needed to deliver, what are the three factors that we believe that are needed to deliver this? A truly unified environment that brings your data center and your public cloud infrastructure management together. On top of that infrastructure, it allows you to migrate your applications seamlessly without any changes, and it does so in a cost efficient way that works for your needs. And that's a solution that we at Nutanix are now delivering. Our whole portfolio is called, the Nutanix Cloud Platform. As Alan was mentioning, the hyperconverged infrastructure software, the HCI software, is truly the bedrock of what we deliver. And as you can see, we support a whole bunch of different OEM vendors, Fujitsu, Hitachi, HP, Lenovo, you name it. These would typically run in our customers' data centers, but now with a new solution that we support called Nutanix Clusters, we're able to deliver this full Nutanix suite of products, both for your data center environment as well as for your public clouds. So really, this solution, Nutanix Clusters, is what connects your data center and your public clouds and allows Nutanix to run anywhere, allows you to use Nutanix anywhere to manage your apps, your infrastructure, and your data. And that's why we call this hybrid and multi-cloud. Hybrid because it's two different things, your data center and your public clouds, and multi-cloud because we do support multiple different clouds. And the key thing over here is that this is not a service per se, this is your infrastructure. You are in control, right? This is your software. You can configure your infrastructure how you want it. It keeps you in full control. Also, you can reuse your existing cloud accounts, which gives you the flexibility to reuse your existing networking setup, reuse your existing VPNs, existing subnets, and even any credits that you might have from a cloud provider. Makes it easy for you to get started. And then, the main reason for this hybrid and multi-cloud architecture, as I said, is optionality. You want to be able to move your workloads to the cloud platform of your choice, and we truly enable that in a lift and shift fashion. Right? It's literally taking your apps, your VMs as they exist today, and replicating them over to the environment where you want to take them to. Replication or migration. So it's truly a zero change migration, no retooling, no refactoring. And one of the unique things that we've done is we've built a native networking integration with the public cloud. And what basically that means for you is that it makes it easy for you to again get started, easy for you to maintain your environment because you don't necessarily need any networking overlay complexity. There's really no L2 layer extension, meaning that the solution overall is easy for you to deploy and easy for you to manage. We support AWS today. So Nutanix with AWS is a GA solution. We are currently in early access with Azure, but we do anticipate also going GA with Azure within the next 3 to 4 months or so. So, and that's not where we're going to stand, where we stop. We want to give our customers truly the optionality to have move their workloads on multiple different public cloud environments. Why? Well, maybe you want to consolidate your data center space. Maybe you want to lift and shift some workloads out of your data center and move them to public cloud, right? So instead of spending months and millions of dollars on refactoring your apps, we will take you there much more quicker. The solution is very easy to set up. It takes less than 1 hour to configure your hybrid environment because you are able to reuse any existing VPNs, any existing networking setup, and then it's really a lift and shift. But maybe you don't want to, move your entire application from your data center to public cloud. Maybe you just want some short-term additional resource capacity. One of our customers is a company that runs a survey every 5 years, like a survey, population survey of their whole country. They have a big data center footprint, but during the time of their survey, their 5 year, every 5 years, every 10 years survey, they will have additional IT requirements. Doesn't really make sense to expand your data center capacity if you're only going to need that for a few months. So connect your on-prem environment to your AWS or Azure environment, deploy additional resources over there to meet your short-term elasticity, short-term burst in demand uh, by uh, by provisioning additional resources in public cloud, and shut them down, bring your apps back to your data center when you don't need them. So that on-demand elasticity is the other use case that we see. And lastly, but not the least by any means, is DR in public cloud. If you're on the East Coast and you're currently using two data center environments for your DR needs, a primary and a secondary data center, maybe you want to expand to a different site. Maybe you want to have a DR in on the West Coast somewhere, hopefully where there's no earthquakes or not as bad with earthquakes. Um, and by being able to use the public cloud regions, global regions, it really expands your ability to have a DR site in a different part of the world without requiring you to manage your data center yourself. And this Nutanix cluster solution, basically, we build that bridge between your data center and your public cloud, help you fail over in the case of a DR event to your secondary site, which will be a public cloud in this case, and recover your applications quickly. This is a conceptual diagram. That's our management plane called Prism, which is used by our customers to manage their infrastructure apps, no matter where Nutanix is running, whether that's in their data center or in multiple public clouds. So basically, what I'm trying to show over here is that you can use Prism to manage your infrastructure either in your data center or in public clouds from the same console. And that's not just VMs, that also includes containers. We also have a Kubernetes solution that helps you run your containerized applications on-prem. It's also it's an HCI solution. So as Alan mentioned, HCI gives you compute, storage, networking, virtualization in the same software-driven solution, and it also allows you to manage your networking, security policy enforcement, and automating your application lifecycle. And one more key differentiator in our solution is that we've built a feature called Hibernation. We know that these cloud instances, these bare metal instances where the Nutanix software would run, they're expensive. And we know that there will be use cases where you may not want to run them all the time. So in such a case, let's say if you don't intend to run Nutanix on public cloud 24/7, what you can do is you can hibernate your environment. What that will do is it will send all of your data to storage buckets, uninstall the Nutanix HCI software, shut down the AWS bare metal instances, and then you're not really paying for anything other than the storage buckets, which are fairly cheap, right? And then when you're ready to restart your environment, again, one click to resume, will restart the bare metal instances, install the Nutanix HCI software on top of it, bring back your data, and your state is restored almost as if nothing had happened. So it leads to a lot of cost efficient operations. All right, so enough talking. Now let me see if the demo gods will cooperate, and let me try and show you all of this that we've been talking about in a demo. Hopefully you are able to see my screen. I'm going to log into my remote host, where the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to log into our uh, our portal called My Nutanix, which is the starting point for our customers with Nutanix offering multiple different products. And this is where you can use both our cost governance solution, our security policy enforcement, our Kubernetes on-prem solution, and the one that we've been talking about is called Nutanix Clusters, which is what helps you build your hybrid cloud. So if I were to click on this, it will launch me into my clusters console, which I already have running over here. Okay, so this is my clusters console. The first thing, so this is the portal that is going to help me configure my hybrid cloud environment. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to give access to my public cloud. All right, so let's try this again. So as I said, the first thing that we want to do is configure my cloud account. And the way we do that is we go over here, say it says add cloud account. You see AWS over here, and as I mentioned, once we GA with Azure in a few months, you'll have the option of Azure over here and other clouds that we support in future. So really all that I need to do is enter my cloud account ID. And then what it says is it's going to give me a script that I can run in my AWS console. So let me see if I can log into my AWS console first. And that's And basically what this script is going to do is it will give permissions to this Nutanix software to manage your compute instances, to manage your storage buckets, and so on. So it says open AWS console. This is basically a CloudFormation script. For those of you that are familiar with CloudFormation, it's a pre-templated script. All I would do is click create stack, and in about 45 seconds, the script will run. And then you verify your connections. And either you select all the 8 supported cloud regions, or you can specify your own regions that you want to configure with the Nutanix solution. And then that's it. You will select add account, and your cloud account is configured. Now Nutanix can manage your bare metal instances. Next step, I want to create a cluster, right? So in this cluster, what I will do is I'll select that cloud account that I just configured. I'll select the region where I want to deploy the Nutanix software. And this is what I meant, that you can reuse your existing networking setup. You can reuse your existing VPCs and subnets. It just needs to be a private subnet, but you can reuse your existing subnets. We support 4 different bare metal types, right? So let me select z1d.metal. And for the demo purpose, I'll select just a single node cluster, but we can go up to a 32 node cluster as well. And then I create an SSH key, or maybe I just reuse an existing one. And then this is our HCI software, AOS. That's the name of our HCI software. So I select my HCI software settings, and done. Within a few minutes, if I had an existing VPC and subnet that I could use, took me less than 5 minutes to configure my cloud account with Nutanix clusters and start to run Nutanix on AWS. It takes about 45 minutes, no matter what the size of your cluster is, 1 node or up to 16 nodes, somewhere between 45 minutes to 1 hour, to get your cluster deployed. In the meantime, I already have this one cluster running, right? So this is, here it shows Nutanix is running in the Frankfurt region. And if I were to go to my AWS account, what does this look like? I go to the EC2 instances, because these are bare metal compute instances that we are running. And this is that instance that we were just looking at. So it looks exactly the same as any other cloud native instance that you might be running. It just happens to run the Nutanix HCI software on it. And once that this multi-node cluster is up and running, you can log into our infrastructure management console, which we call Prism. And this is where most of our customers' time is spent, most of our infrastructure and operations team. So this is our management console that allows you to create VMs, manage your own VMs, attach storage with those VMs. It also comes with file storage and object storage, so a consolidated storage solution helps you create DR policies for your applications, and helps you update your infrastructure. So this is a full software-driven infrastructure solution powered by the Nutanix HCI, right? So this console is called Prism, and I can use Prism to manage multiple clusters. Notice this cluster over here says it runs on AWS bare metal instances. So this is Nutanix software running on AWS. But if I have multiple such clusters running in different environments, Prism also allows you to manage those from the same console. So there is that AWS cluster, and then I have a Nutanix cluster running in my data center, and then I have a Nutanix cluster running ESXi. So Nutanix also has its own hypervisor called AHV, right? So we can build that private cloud solution for you, either using AHV, or we also support vSphere. So that's a vSphere cluster. And the benefits of having one console to manage your infrastructure anywhere, those are operational simplicity. Those are being able to control your applications and data more efficiently, and those are being able to migrate them easily. So the way there's a bunch of different ways in which we can do the data migration. I'll take the example of a DR scenario. So these are something we call protection policies that define, which VMs do you want to protect in the case of a DR event. And here you see that I have specified my primary location as Nutanix private cloud, right? So that's my Nutanix cluster running in my data center. And I can specify my recovery location to be my cloud cluster. So there is that SMB on AWS. That's my cluster. That's my Nutanix cluster running on AWS. So this protection policy can, in the case of a DR event, this will send the VMs that I select to my AWS cluster, from my on-prem to my AWS cluster. That's the protection policy just defines which VMs you want to send, and we identify those VMs on the basis of tags, right? So your VMs will be carrying certain tags. You specify those tags in the protection policy. We know which VMs those are. You specify the primary and the destination location, and we'll migrate those VMs. But you also want to specify what order those VMs should be sent to the destination and what order those VMs should be recovered at your destination. So that's done in what we call a recovery plan. Again, you specify your primary environment, your destination environment. So this will be your data center, this will be your AWS location. And then you specify the power on sequence. So these are those tags that I was talking about. You identify your VMs on the basis of these tags, and you tell Nutanix what sequence, which VMs do you want to power up first, and which VMs do you want to power up later. And you then map your network, right? You map your on-prem subnet with your AWS subnet. That's it. You're done. You specified which VMs you want to be failed over to the AWS side. You specified the order in which they should come back up. You've done the network mapping, and now if you wanted to test this, you can click failover. The VMs will be replicated from my on-prem data center to my AWS site, all through this Prism console. That's just one example of how Prism helps you with DR, right? The other use cases, lift and shift, on-demand elasticity, those can all again be done from the same console. So that's a very quick demo of how Nutanix helps you with DR in your hybrid cloud environment. All right. So to wrap up, one more important thing, right? We also believe that not just your applications, your licenses should also run anywhere. If you want to migrate your apps from on-prem to public cloud, you should be able to take your investment in that app also with that app. So the software licenses that you purchase from Nutanix, they come with complete license portability across the various Nutanix clusters. Doesn't matter if the Nutanix cluster is running in AWS or in Azure. When we support Azure, you will be able to migrate your licenses, and that again leads to more cost-efficient consumption. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of things. If I were to summarize everything, bring everything back together, what are the three main things that you should take away from this webinar? Nutanix helps you with seamless app mobility across the environment of your choice, whether that's your data center to AWS, Azure, even AWS to Azure directly, or any other clouds that we support in future. It's a true lift and shift of your applications, along with unified infrastructure management for your entire infrastructure, your entire hybrid and multi-cloud infrastructure, no matter where Nutanix is running. It's one single console to manage your infrastructure, your apps and data. And it also helps you optimize your operational costs through the various features like hibernation, cost governance with our cost control solution, as well as the license portability that we talked about. So what's next for you? We'd love for you to take this on a spin yourself. You don't need to go through any long POC process or anything. We offer a test drive, which is a zero-touch experience for you to understand the power of the Nutanix HCI software either running in a private cloud or in a public cloud environment. And that's available at nutanix.com/test drive. We encourage you to go there. It has a bunch of different scenarios like burstability, DR, database management, and so on. And it will help you get a good understanding of how Nutanix can help you with your hybrid and multi-cloud needs. That's all from me. Alan, David, back to you.
All right, great presentation, Sahil. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate that, and also love that you took the time to do a live demo for us. I know that's always a little risky, but it turned out just perfectly. And the Nutanix cluster solution is just such a really cool solution that I know can help a lot of companies out there. Before we start Q&A, I want to remind everyone that there's a link right there. You can see it to nutanix.com/test drive. And if you go to that, you can sign up for the Nutanix test drive that Sahil was just demonstrating to you. So with that, let's go ahead and start up some Q&A here. I know we've been taking questions electronically during the presentation. First question comes from Kristen, who's asking about mobile monitoring or mobile management of this. Is that possible?
I assume we mean by that we mean mobile applications. We do the monitoring of the Nutanix infrastructure, right? So wherever, whatever your VMs, your databases, we do provide health information for those. We do provide how they're connected, throughput, and so on. But we don't necessarily do the mobile apps monitoring, if that is what the question was. But if it's your web applications, then yeah, we do provide the monitoring information for those.
Okay, excellent. And then another question here, they're saying we use NSX and VMware right now, and networking can get complicated. Does your solution work the same way when it comes to configuring networking?
No, not really, because there is no necessarily any need for a NSX equivalent networking layer. Because of the native networking integration that we've built in, really the only scenario in which you may want to have a layer 2 equivalent like NSX would be if you wanted to do a partial failover from on-prem to the cloud and preserve your IPs. And we can certainly help with that, but our default scenarios that we see with our customers do not necessarily require an NSX equivalent, which makes it a much more easier to get started with, a solution that's much more easier to get started with.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, that's
and here's another.
In Sahil's demo, it was simply pull-down menus, right, and clicking IP addresses. That's how easy the networking piece is with us.
I love that. There's just too much complexity in IT, and this is going to make things simpler. So thank you for that. This question came in. They're asking, they say they're a current Nutanix customer. They're interested in Nutanix clusters in the cloud. They ask, is this, do they have the ability to use this? How would that work?
Yeah, we do have the solution GA and available with support for AWS today. We are currently in a private early access program for Azure, and we will be GAing Azure in the next few months. The way you would get started is if you are an existing customer, reach out to your local SE, reach out to your local sales rep, and they'd be happy to do a walkthrough for you, get you started, get you set up. Or as I showed in my demo in the beginning, you can log into your My Nutanix console yourself, look for Nutanix clusters, and then it's a self-serve process from there on. You will get the instructions on how to set up the cluster, and you should be able to follow those along and get started yourself, or we'd be happy to do more of a white glove treatment with your local SE and your local sales rep.
Excellent.
Hey Sahil, Halil just asked a question. He said they're a current customer. Do we have the ability to use cloud-based solutions? So Halil, that demo that Sahil just showed is what you would need to do to connect your solution to AWS. That's literally how easy it is if you wanted to connect your on-prem Nutanix solution to AWS to create that hybrid cloud and connect to AWS. What he just showed you is what you'd have to go through. So that's how easy it is.
Awesome. Next question, they say that they're using AWS now to run their applications, but it seems like there's a lot of hidden costs. They keep getting bills for different things that they didn't expect. Is there a way to stop that type of thing from happening if they were to leverage Nutanix clusters?
Well, yeah, Nutanix clusters along with Beam. So Beam is our separate product. It's a SaaS product. So honestly, you could use it even without Nutanix clusters if you wanted to. What that does is it takes all of your public cloud billing information, makes it much more easier for you to slice and dice, understand where that spending is coming from, who's driving that spending, and it gives you those cost saving recommendations like I found a certain VM that's been sitting there. It's on, it's idle. I don't see any CPU usage. I don't see any memory usage. So it's clearly not being used. Why don't you go ahead and delete it? Right. So either it can be Beam makes a suggestion and you take the action to delete it, or you can configure a policy and tell Beam anytime you find a VM that's been sitting idle for 15 days, just go ahead and shut it down automatically. So it's you could also create those kind of automation policies yourself, and that's really the way to control your cloud costs. Well, that's one of the ways amongst the other ways. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's see. Next question. They say we've been using cloud as part of our backup and disaster recovery plan. What other use cases do you see customers using for private and hybrid cloud?
VDI bursting. VDI seems to be one of those use cases where you tend to have unpredictable needs. Obviously, work from remote really accentuated that. But even under quote unquote normal times, there are days when we've had customers say, "I need to spin up 2,000 new VDI next week, next month. I don't have the time to order new hardware, configure that in my data center." Of course, you could run those VDI in public cloud alone, but then you run into the challenges of data sovereignty, your security policies. Maybe you don't want to move your applications that run on the VDI into the public cloud and so on. So in that case, you could use a hybrid solution like Nutanix clusters to connect your data center with the public cloud. Keep your apps on prem, burst VDI into public cloud. Just make copies of your application as the need be, and shut it down and bring it back without having to order new resources for your data center. Another one tends to be database management, right? Databases tends to be one of those solutions where it's challenging to manage databases as is. Then when you have different databases in different environments, that's even more challenging. I have MySQL running in my Azure environment, and I have I don't know, MariaDB running in my data center. Do I really want to have two different teams managing those two different databases, or can I have one solution that connects these different databases in different clouds and use one simple database management solution? So we also provide that called Nutanix Era, which is a unified database management solution. So those are the two other main use cases that we see in addition to DR.
Very nice. I mean, any way that you can reduce the number of solutions out there and simplify and make things more efficient is just going to provide so much value to the company and to the IT organization. Another
David?
question, they say that they're, yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Hey, well, while we're on kind of a clusters conversation, Paul was asking, and I'm not sure, but maybe Sahil knows. Sahil, if they're going through the test drive and they want to try clusters and they need support, do you know how that is? That through an account team type thing, or how does that work?
No, we have a little chat widget in our test drive, and we have some sales engineers, solution engineers that monitor that. It's using a software called third-party software called Intercom. It'll be very obvious to you, like that little pop-up will show up in the bottom right corner of your screen. You send in a question over there. Somebody from our side will reach back to you if you need any help.
Okay, great.
Awesome. I love that in application, support just built right in. Next question, they say their organization has an all cloud initiative, but they have so many on-prem applications, they don't see it happening anytime real soon. Any suggestions on how they can get to cloud?
So they are moving from on-prem to multi-cloud. Like if you have a cloud-first strategy, is that still a multi-cloud strategy? If so, then the conversation still remains pretty much the same. Just replace your data center with another cloud, right? Do you still think you will benefit from a multi-cloud solution that combines the infrastructure, app, storage management across your different clouds, right? So in that case, it would still be a helpful solution, even if you want to do a cloud to cloud migration. Once you get out of the data center, and honestly, we do see several customers where they had a cloud first policy, but I think Alan had used this phrase earlier, which is cloud smart. Cloud first is great, cloud smart is better. The conversation still remains, do you benefit from bringing all of your public clouds together? If so, Nutanix is that solution that will help bridge the gap between your AWS, Azure, and the other public clouds that we will support in the near future.
Yeah, hey David, and I think an important
Excellent.
part of this that we
Yeah.
didn't talk about with being cloud smart is if you think of the whole multi-cloud concept, right? So suppose you're running an application on XYZ public cloud like Azure, and then the costs for that app might go down on AWS. What's the process of moving that application from one cloud to another? That's where Nutanix and the Nutanix hybrid cloud platform makes it easy, where you can bring it down, bring it over, and then move it up and take advantage of those types of cost savings. And just being able to move, workloads around like that. It's unbelievably easy. And I think a huge advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's not normally possible. Taking a workload from AWS to Azure and Azure to Google, that's just not easy at all. But yeah, Nutanix clusters is making it easy. So that's awesome. I mean, we're starting to run out of time here in our hour window. Before we go, I wanted to make sure I ask this one last question, and that is, so if folks go to nutanix.com/test drive, which actually you can click right there on the slide on your screen, and that'll bring up a new window in your web browser to the test drive site. What happens next? Can you kind of describe the process?
Yeah, you will see, I believe, 6 different options over there. These test drives are like a self-guided tour. Just enter your email, pick one option like build a hybrid cloud or build a private cloud or unify database management. So you'll see 6 options over there for the 6 different test drives that we offer. Enter your email. You'll get enter your email address. We'll send you an email with an access code just to make sure we don't get spam. So that's why we send the access code to your inbox. Copy that access code from your inbox, enter it into the test drive, and you'll be on your way. You'll see a guided tour from there on, showing you this is what Prism is. Here is how you would create a new VM. Here is how you would attach storage to it. Here is how you would go about security policy and so on. After that, it'll be a self-guided tour.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds super easy to do to get started and see the power of Nutanix clusters, for yourself with your own eyes on your own computer. So love it that it's a great free opportunity. And I'm afraid we've reached the end of our event here. But Sahil, Alan, really excellent presentation today. Thank you so much for being on.
It's our pleasure. Thank you, David.
Thank you.